My name is Nora Bryant. I'm 29 years old, and for a long time, I believed that love was mostly about patience, about choosing not to overreact, not to read too deeply into moments that made you uncomfortable. Game night was supposed to be harmless. Evan and I were hosting. 8 people crammed into our living room, shoes kicked off by the door, wine glasses already sweating onto coasters I'd bought specifically for nights like this. Friends from work, friends from college, a few overlaps, comfortable, familiar. That's what I thought it was. The game was one of those couple-based trivia games, designed intentionally to stir tension, inside jokes, memory traps, questions about chemistry. Evan and I were actually winning. I remember feeling proud of that. Silly, maybe, but it felt good to be in sync with him again, even in something as trivial as pop culture answers and shared laughs. Then came the lightning round. I was standing near the coffee table, holding the scorecards, when Evan stood up before I could even speak. Wine glass in hand, relaxed, confident. He pointed across the room. "I'm picking Marla," he said. "We've got better chemistry anyway." For half a second, no one reacted. Then the room exploded with laughter. Not the kind that warms you, not the kind that lifts the mood, the kind that feeds on discomfort. Marla, his ex-girlfriend, his coworker, the woman I'd been told repeatedly was ancient history, laughed the loudest. She slid off the couch and took the seat beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Evan leaned back, grinning, arms stretched along the back of the sofa. That grin said everything. Temporary inconvenience. I caught Chloe's eye across the room. Her smile faltered, just for a moment. Sympathy. Quiet. Useless. Everyone else was in on it. I felt the hurt first. A sharp, immediate sting, like someone had flicked a match inside my chest. Then something else replaced it. Cold, calm, focused. I smiled. "All right," I said lightly. "Team chemistry it is." They won the round. Of course they did. They finished each other's sentences, shared glances, high-fived after every correct answer, their hands lingering a fraction too long. They weren't just playing a game. They were performing. And I was the punchline. The rest of the night blurred together. I played the gracious host, refilled glasses, smiled on cue. Inside, something was freezing over. When the last guest finally left, Evan brushed a quick kiss against my cheek. "Wasn't that fun?" he said, already turning away. He didn't wait for an answer. He disappeared into the bedroom, phone in hand, laughing softly. I recognized that laugh. It wasn't for me. I cleaned the kitchen alone. This hadn't come out of nowhere. For 6 months, Evan's life had been slowly orbiting away from mine. Late nights, weekend strategy calls, a 3-day business conference he'd attended with Marla 2 weeks earlier. When he came back, he was different, distant, irritated by my presence, glowing when he talked about her. Game night wasn't a mistake. It was a declaration. When I finished wiping the counters, I walked into our home office. That's when I saw the tablet, Evan's old one, sitting untouched on the shelf, exactly where he'd left it months ago when his company issued new devices. I picked it up. It lit instantly, still logged in. I'd never gone through his things before, not once in 3 years. But something about that laughter, the way everyone had laughed, told me I'd already been excluded from whatever privacy I thought we shared. I opened his private social account, and my stomach dropped. Photos, dozens of them. Hotel dinners, champagne flutes clinking against city lights. A spa selfie, 2 bodies wrapped in robes, faces flushed, captioned, "Conference perks." Then the receipts, a $400 steakhouse bill. Marla's comment underneath, "Relax, we just coded it as a client meeting. Evan's a wizard with expense reports." It wasn't just cheating, it was theft, and they were proud of it. I took screenshots of everything, calmly, carefully. Then I put the tablet back exactly where I found it. I slept on the couch that night. Not angry, focused. Sheer clarity has a sound, I think. For me, it was silence. I didn't sleep so much as drift. The couch was too short, the throw blanket too thin, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw Evan's grin, lazy, smug, while he reached for Marla like the room had crowned them king and queen. At some point around dawn, I heard the bedroom door open. Soft footsteps, the shuffle of slippers, the low clink of a mug. Evan didn't come looking for me. He didn't call my name. He just existed in the apartment like nothing had changed, like I wasn't lying in the living room, wrapped in a blanket like an afterthought. I listened with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, letting my heartbeat settle into something slow and manageable. "Stay calm, Nora. If you move too fast, you'll only give him something to twist." By the time he left for work, he was humming. actually humming like a man who'd won a game and didn't even realize the prize he'd taken. I waited until I heard the door lock behind him. Then I got up. The air in the apartment felt different. Lighter, almost. Clinical. Like I'd stepped into a room after a storm and realized the damage had already been done. I went straight to the home office. The tablet was still on the shelf, exactly where I had placed it the night before, and for a second my fingers hesitated. Not because I didn't want to know more, but because I did. There's a kind of fear that comes with proof. Suspicion hurts, but it leaves you room to breathe. Proof is a door slamming shut. I picked it up anyway. The screen woke. No password. No barrier. It was almost insulting how easy it was. I opened his private account again, the one he claimed was just for close friends, the one he insisted wasn't a big deal. A gallery of betrayal stared back at me like it had been waiting. Not just one or two photos, not a single careless post. It was a full story, a timeline, a scrapbook. The first photo was at the conference hotel bar, Evan's hand wrapped around a drink, Marla leaning into his shoulder, her lipstick too perfect, her smile too proud. The caption was playful. Survived day one. Survived. Like they were soldiers. Like they were doing something difficult and noble instead of humiliating the woman he came home to every night. I swiped. Another post, a mirror selfie in the elevator, his arm around her waist, her head tilted up toward him like she was posing for an engagement shoot. I knew that elevator, because Evan had sent me a photo from it too, 2 weeks ago. He'd texted, "Long day, miss you." The background had been cropped out, like he'd intentionally framed it so I couldn't see who was beside him. My throat tightened. Not a sob, not a gasp, just a hard knot of realization. He didn't forget to mention her, Nora. He edited her out. I kept scrolling. A spa, plush white robes, Marla's bare shoulder pressed against Evan's chest. The caption, "Conference perks, don't tell HR." Underneath, a friend commented, "OMG, living your best life." Marla replied, "We earned it." Earned. As if loyalty to their partners or honesty to their company was just some optional rule for boring people. Then I saw the receipt. A photo taken deliberately, like she wanted to flaunt it. $412. A steakhouse I recognized, because we'd once walked past it and Evan had said, maybe someday. Like it was a dream too extravagant for our life. But apparently it wasn't too extravagant for a client meeting. Marla's comment was pinned beneath it. Relax. We coded it as client development. Evan's a genius with expense reports. My hand went cold. That line wasn't just incriminating. It was a confession. And suddenly, the humiliation of game night, it rearranged itself into something bigger. Because it hadn't only been personal. It had been a performance born from arrogance. People who think they're untouchable always start getting careless. They start laughing in public. They start posting receipts. They start choosing their ex-girlfriend in front of their girlfriend because they believe consequences are for other people. I sat down at the desk, tablet in my lap, and forced myself to breathe slowly. In, out, in, out. My mind annoyingly tried to rescue him. Maybe the photos are old. Maybe it's just flirting. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. But the truth didn't allow itself to be softened. The truth was bright, sharp, unforgiving. And the more I scrolled, the worse it got. There were inside jokes about sharing a bed because the hotel messed up. A photo of 2 champagne glasses on a balcony with the caption, "To us." A boomerang of their hands intertwined under a tablecloth. Their hands. His hand. The same hand that had reached for mine under the table at my mother's birthday dinner last month. The same hand that had held my waist when we took photos for New Year's. It hit me then. This wasn't one bad choice. It wasn't a slip. It was a second life. And I had been living beside a man who felt no guilt about it. Something inside me wanted to shatter, to throw the tablet, to scream, to call him and demand answers. But another part of me, quiet, steady, rose up like a spine. If you confront him now, he'll deny it. If you cry, he'll call you dramatic. If you rage, he'll paint you as unstable. Evan had practiced this. I realized that with a dull ache. He'd been rehearsing his lines for months. You're insecure. You're overthinking. Marla is just a colleague. And I had been trying so hard to be the cool girlfriend that I'd swallowed my instincts until they burned. Not again. I opened my phone and began documenting everything. Screenshot after screenshot. The spa, the receipt, the captions, the comments, the jokes about expense reports. I zoomed in on dates. I captured timestamps. I took photos of the tablet screen with my phone in case he tried to wipe it remotely. Methodical. Like I was collecting evidence for a case I never wanted to build. I didn't know yet exactly what I would do with it, but I knew what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't plead. I wouldn't ask for the kind of respect that should have existed without being requested. As I worked, a memory surfaced, sharp as a paper cut. Evan's company had been in the news recently. Something about tightened ethics policies, a scandal involving embezzlement, a big public statement about zero tolerance. I remembered because Evan had complained about it at dinner. Now we have to report every stupid little thing, he'd said, rolling his eyes. They're trying to look clean for the public. At the time, I'd barely listened. Now that memory sat in my chest like a loaded gun. Zero tolerance. I stared at the screenshots on my phone, and for the first time, the humiliation shifted into something else. Not vengeance, not even anger. Just inevitability. People like Evan and Marla didn't stop because they suddenly grew a conscience. They stopped when the world finally noticed them. I finished the last screenshot and sat back, my fingers trembling only slightly. Then I did something that surprised even me. I put the tablet back on the shelf. Exactly. Perfectly. Like I'd never touched it. Because I needed Evan to walk into this apartment later and feel safe. I needed him relaxed, confident, smug. I needed him to keep believing that I was still the woman who would swallow discomfort to keep the peace. I went into the kitchen, poured myself coffee, and stared out the window as the city moved like nothing had happened. My reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar. Not broken, not hysterical. Just awake. And beneath that awakening, something colder settled. A quiet decision forming under my ribs. By the time Evan came home tonight, he would still think this was a game. He wouldn't realize the screen had remembered everything, and that I had finally started listening. By the time Evan came home that evening, I was already calm. That, more than anything else, should have scared him. He walked in like a man who still believed the world bent gently around him. Jacket tossed over a chair, shoes kicked off without looking. He gave me a quick smile, casual, careless. "Hey," he said, "you good?" I nodded. "Yeah, just tired." That answer slid down easily. He didn't question it. Evan never questioned comfort. We ate dinner in near silence. He scrolled on his phone. I picked at my food. At one point, he laughed under his breath. "Marla sent me something hilarious," he said, not even glancing up. I felt something tighten behind my ribs, but my face stayed neutral. I murmured. He didn't notice. Later, when he went to shower, I sat alone at the kitchen table and watched the hallway light flick on and off. Steam curled under the bathroom door. The sound of running water filled the apartment, covering, cleansing, erasing. He thought. When the bedroom door finally closed and the lights went out, I waited another 10 minutes. Long enough for his breathing to deepen. Long enough for certainty. Then I moved. I didn't rush. I didn't creep. I walked into the home office like I belonged there, because I did. I powered on my laptop. The glow of the screen felt surgical, clean, precise. I opened a new email. For a moment, my fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was the line, the point of no return. Once I crossed it, there would be no pretending this was a misunderstanding, no gentle conversations, no therapy buzzwords like working through it. But something inside me had already stepped past that line hours ago. I typed the recipient's name carefully, the head of human resources. I remembered her because Evan had once mocked her in passing, called her overly polished, PR trained, paranoid about optics. Those are the people who notice everything. The subject line came next. Not dramatic, not emotional. Just accurate. Regarding potential violations of company expense and conduct policies. I stared at it for a second. Then I began. "Hello, my name is Nora Bryant. I am Evan's long-term partner. I am writing because I recently became aware of what appears to be a serious violation of company policy involving corporate travel expenses and professional conduct. I felt ethically obligated to bring this to your attention. No accusations. No insults. Just facts. I explained the business trip, the spa, the dinner, the posts, the receipts, the captions explicitly referencing falsified expense reports. I attached the screenshots one by one. Each click felt final. I ended the email the same way I began it. Calm, professional, devastating. I am deeply concerned about how this behavior may reflect on the company's integrity, particularly given recent public commitments to ethical accountability. Please let me know if further information is required." I read it twice, 3 times. There was nothing to add, nothing to soften. I checked the time, 8:14 a.m. I hit send at 8:15. The sound was barely audible, a soft digital confirmation. And just like that, it was done. I closed the laptop and sat there for a long moment, my hands resting flat on the desk. No adrenaline, no shaking, just stillness. The next morning, Evan woke up late and rushed out the door, grumbling about meetings. He kissed my cheek without looking at me. Long day ahead, he muttered. I smiled faintly. Good luck. At 10:32 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Chloe, who worked in a different department at the same company. Is something going on in strategy? Rumor is 2 people got pulled into HR and didn't come back. I didn't respond. At 11:47 a.m., another text. Holy shit, Evan and Marla were walked out, security and everything. Laptops confiscated. I stared at the screen. There it was. Not satisfaction. Not triumph. Just confirmation. The kind that settles into your bones and tells you the truth didn't need defending after all. I set my phone down and poured myself another cup of coffee. By noon, Evan still hadn't called. By 12:30, my phone rang. His name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. At 12:46, I heard keys slam into the lock. The door flew open so hard it rattled the frame. Evan stood there, pale, eyes wild, clutching a cardboard box filled with the sad remains of his desk life. A plant, a framed certificate, a coffee mug with a crack down the side. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You, he said, his voice shaking with fury. You did this. I tilted my head slightly. Did what? Don't lie to me, he snapped. We were fired. Fired. HR said an anonymous report came in. You're the only one who... Only one who what? I asked calmly. Knew? His mouth opened. Closed. You went through my stuff, he said, scrambling now. That's illegal. That's insane. You're trying to destroy me. I stood up slowly. So you're saying, I said evenly, there was something on that trip worth reporting? The silence stretched. His shoulders sagged. The anger cracked. And behind it, panic flooded in. It was just fun, he said weakly. Everyone does it. You didn't have to ruin my career. I looked at him, really looked. You ruined your career, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then something ugly crept back into his expression. This wasn't over. Not in his mind. Not yet. Evan's panic didn't last long. Panic for him was always just a bridge, something to cross before landing back on arrogance. He straightened his shoulders, set the cardboard box down with a scoff, and crossed his arms like he was regaining control of the room. Okay, he said sharply. Enough of this. I stayed where I was, leaning against the kitchen counter, arms relaxed at my sides. I let the silence stretch just long enough to unsettle him. I'm not going anywhere, he continued. This is my home too. I blinked once, slowly. No, I said, it's not. That stopped him. I could see the calculation flicker behind his eyes, the mental filing cabinet opening, searching for leverage. You don't get to decide that, he snapped. You don't just kick me out because you're upset. This isn't about being upset, I replied. This is about consequences. He laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. You think you've won? He said. You think this ends me? Then his mouth curled into a smile that made my skin crawl. I'll be fine. I already knew what he was about to say. Marla will help me, he continued confidently. She actually understands me, unlike you. There it was, the fantasy. The safety net he'd been performing for at game night. She'll take me in, he said. We're connected. We're real. I folded my arms now, not defensively, just comfortably. Will she? I asked. He scoffed. Of course she will. He pulled out his phone and jabbed at the screen, deliberately turning the speaker on and setting it between us on the counter, like he wanted witnesses. Like he wanted me to hear my replacement save him. Marla answered on the second ring. Her voice sounded strained, tight. Evan, she said, what is going on? My keycard isn't working. Security escorted me out like I was a criminal. They fired us, he said quickly. But it's okay. Nora reported it. She's losing her mind. My name tossed casually into the air, like I wasn't standing 10 feet away. Silence crackled on the line. Reported what? Marla asked slowly. The trip, Evan said. The expenses. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I need you to come get me. She's kicking me out. Another pause. Longer. How? Marla said carefully. Would she know about the expenses? Evan's jaw tightened. The only way, Marla continued, her voice suddenly sharp, is if she saw those posts. The ones I told you not to keep online. I thought they were private, he snapped. Well, they weren't private enough, she shot back. My entire career just went up in smoke because you couldn't keep things discreet. Our careers, Evan corrected. We're in this together. There it was again, that desperate reach for shared blame. We are not, Marla said flatly. I watched Evan's face shift, confusion bleeding into alarm. Marla, he said, lowering his voice, I just need somewhere to stay, for a bit, until this blows over. She laughed, not kindly. Are you insane? She said. You think you can show up with suitcases? Why not? He snapped. You said you cared about me. I do, she replied, which is why I'm not destroying my life further. There was a beat. Then she exhaled. My husband already suspects something, she said. If you show up, it's over. Not just my job, everything. Evan went very still. Your husband, he said? You knew I was married, she said. Separated, not divorced. I told you that. No, he said hoarsely. You said the divorce was almost final. Well, it's not, she snapped. And he's not going to be understanding about me getting fired for taking my affair partner to a spa on the company's dime. Affair partner. The words hung heavy in the air. I can't help you, Marla said. Don't call me again. The line went dead. The silence that followed was suffocating. Evan stared at the phone like it might ring again if he willed it hard enough. It didn't.
Slowly, he looked up at me.
The confidence was gone. The safety net burned to ash. You knew, he whispered. You knew this would happen. I knew the truth, I said. What happened after that wasn't up to me. His mouth opened, searching for another angle, another accusation, another way to make this my fault. Nothing came. I pointed at the cardboard box by the door. You should start packing, I said. You have more to fit in there than you think. He sank onto the edge of the couch, head in his hands. This time the silence wasn't mine. It was his. Evan didn't argue after that. Not because he suddenly understood, he didn't, but because there was nothing left to stand on. No job, no lover, no narrative where he was the misunderstood hero. Just the floor beneath his feet and the mess he'd made on it. He packed slowly, too slowly. I stayed in the spare room, giving him space not out of kindness, but out of necessity. I didn't want to see the performance, the sighs, the pauses meant to draw sympathy, the hope that I'd eventually soften and offer help. Every so often I heard a drawer slam, a curse under his breath, the zip of a suitcase that sounded louder than it needed to be. Time stretched. Around 6 p.m, he knocked on the door frame. I turned. 3 suitcases and 4 boxes were stacked near the door. The cardboard box from his office sat on top, the cracked mug peeking out like a punchline no one laughed at. Where am I supposed to go? He asked. Not pleading. Testing. My sister's, he added quickly when I didn't answer. For now. I nodded once. Okay. That was it. He waited, eyes searching my face for regret, guilt, anything. There was none. He struggled with the first suitcase, banging it against the doorframe. I didn't move to help. He didn't ask. The exit was awkward and small and painfully human. No dramatic goodbye, no apology. Just the sound of wheels dragging over the threshold and the door closing behind him. I locked the deadbolt. The click echoed. And just like that, the apartment exhaled. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was clean. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Chloe. Heard what happened. Good for you. He's been crossing lines for months. Then another message, and another. The people who'd laughed the loudest at game night were suddenly quiet. Distance has a way of appearing when accountability enters the room. I spent the evening reclaiming my space. I changed the sheets, cleared the bathroom shelf, deleted his profile from the TV. Each small act felt like a ritual, me reminding the apartment and myself, who lived here now. I ordered pizza, ate it on the couch, let the quiet settle. I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved. Around 11, my phone buzzed again. A message from Evan. I almost deleted it without reading. Almost. Curiosity won. You owe me. I spent 3 years of my life on you. I helped decorate this place. You're going to have to support me until I find a new job. My sister's a paralegal. She says I have rights. I read it twice. Not a single word of remorse. Just entitlement, pure and undiluted. Something inside me finally went still. I blocked his number. Then I went to bed. I slept deeply, completely. The kind of sleep that only comes when you stop carrying someone else's lies. The next morning, sunlight filled the apartment. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like it belonged to me.